When running a business means
Where did I put that receipt?
we can help you with instant accounting, free software that does your bookkeeping for you. When running a business means
Wait, what do you mean the container hasn't arrived?
we help protect your business from risk with Mohwebi Insurance. And when it means
How do we pay our staff that don't have bank accounts?
we help you make multiple payments directly to people's phones with e-wallet bulk send. At FNB, we're constantly innovating to help business owners at every stage of their journey.
Welcome back to First Issues. We continue our crash course in basic economics with researcher in economics Gomolemo Basele. On this segment, our focus phrase is the poverty datum line. What is it and how is it determined? Exactly what is it used for in economics discipline? Gomolemo explains.
Poverty datum line, right? That's the minimum cost of living a household is expected to have without being considered to fall within our poverty index, for example. So it basically relates the affordability of adequate food for one's household, adequate and quality accommodation, as well as access to quality health services that a household can afford. It can be used to show different policy and different poverty indices across different regions within the country. You can then have a figure that sums up and then shows the poverty levels within a country and then be able to compare them with different jurisdictions to see how we as a nation are faring compared to other areas around the world.
What figures are those that we're looking at? What determines that this person can, or is living under the poverty datum line? If you're saying that they're able to afford food, what kind of food are we talking about? Or quality healthcare, what kind of quality healthcare, or access to education?
So the kind of food that we're talking about, these are your basic food types. So if an individual is deemed able to afford these or earns enough to be able to afford these kinds of food, then you would not consider them to fall within the poverty range. And then access to quality accommodation or adequate shelter. We then look at rental prices to see what level of rent is considered acceptable for a household or an individual to be able to afford, for them not to be considered within the poverty side, as well as also access to being able to buy housing. So what rate or what interest rate on a mortgage is an individual able to afford without them being considered to be within the poverty side. So it's different kind of parameters that we look at, and then we try and find an acceptable level for one to be considered to be able to afford a certain standard of life.
So this data, where are we collecting it from, when and how?
So this data is collected at different times. I think our main statistics resource is Statistics Botswana. So some of this data can be found on Statistics Botswana portals. And then to actually create these indices, you can find different sources. So it depends on what kind of methodology you wish to see implemented for you to be able to come up with adequate analyses. I think one key area is like looking at Nambio, for example. They have several indices on their website, as well as several comparisons that you can then make.
What does it mean when somebody's living either below or above the poverty datum line?
If somebody is living below, then you'd have to look at other matrices to then be able to make an adequate analysis of what it means. So it could mean that the inequality levels within a certain area are actually increasing, which points to issues or low real wage levels that need to be amended. It could also spur discussions on minimum wage levels. So if you have a large number of individuals living below the poverty datum line, it could then point that minimum wage levels do not actually address the cost of living within a certain area.
So what does it mean now when they're living above the poverty datum line?
All right, so if they're living above, then they're able to live beyond the bare minimum of what it takes to maintain a certain standard of living. So it bodes well. It means that people also have the ability to build up a certain level of wealth because they're not purely spending their income on the bare necessities. So if people are living above the poverty datum line, it might mean that conditions within that particular jurisdiction are improving.